Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Tanzania's president dies after weeks of speculation about his health, claims that he'd caught coronavirus and denials from the government that he was ill. Authorities say that 61-year-old John Magufuli died of a heart condition in Dar es Salaam. Tanzania's president, John Magufuli, has died of a heart condition in Dar es Salaam. The vice president made the announcement on state television on Wednesday after days of uncertainty over Magufuli's health. The 61-year-old had not appeared in public for weeks. The opposition had demanded answers and cited sources claiming that Magufuli had coronavirus. The government vehemently denied that. Well, Mikawa Shachwayu joins us now with more. Mikawa, what more do we know about the circumstances of Magufuli's death?
Well, Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan announced that President John Magufuli died due to heart complications. She said that he was admitted to a hospital in Dar es Salaam on the 6th of March. Magufuli has been out of the public eye since late February, and last week rumors of his deteriorating health and even death started to gain momentum in Tanzania and the region. As you said, the main opposition leader, Tundu Lissu,
Welcome back to Mercy Broken English. This one na Mercy Broken English. If na your first time say you dey watch Mercy Broken English, I welcome you. And also, you know now, if you never subscribe, don't forget to subscribe and put on your notification, because subscribe now free, so that whenever I upload video, you go there notify say Mercy Broken English don't upload video again.
Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Tanzania's president dies after weeks of speculation about his health, claims that he'd caught coronavirus and denials from the government that he was ill. Authorities say that 61-year-old John Magufuli died of a heart condition in Dar es Salaam. Tanzania's president, John Magufuli, has died of a heart condition in Dar es Salaam. The vice president made the announcement on state television on Wednesday after days of uncertainty over Magufuli's health. The 61-year-old had not appeared in public for weeks. The opposition had demanded answers and cited sources claiming that Magufuli had coronavirus. The government vehemently denied that. Well, Mikawa Shachwayu joins us now with more. Mikawa, what more do we know about the circumstances of Magufuli's death?
Well, Vice President Samia Suluhu Hassan announced that President John Magufuli died due to heart complications. She said that he was admitted to a hospital in Dar es Salaam on the 6th of March. Magufuli has been out of the public eye since late February, and last week rumors of his deteriorating health and even death started to gain momentum in Tanzania and the region. As you said, the main opposition leader, Tundu Lissu, said that he had been flown to a hospital here in Nairobi and then India. The Prime Minister and other government officials were adamant that Magufuli was well and working hard as usual. There are many people that believed his heart complication could have been brought on by COVID. Magufuli was Africa's most prominent COVID-19 skeptic. Last year, he said that prayers would save Tanzania from COVID-19. And it was only in February this year that he finally admitted that Tanzania has a COVID-19 problem. But this was after several government ministers had died, and even though we don't know the causes of their deaths, his finance minister also made a public appearance in February outside a hospital after rumors had been circulating that he had died of COVID. He was flanked by doctors and he was coughing and looked very visibly sick. So even after some of Magufuli's family members and officials around him contracted the virus, he still said that Tanzanians should depend on God as they take other preventative measures. His critics said that his government was too slow in enforcing significant restrictions to curb the spread of COVID-19.
And when it comes to the political effect this is going to have on Tanzania, now Magufuli, who was first elected in 2015, he was not that long into his second term following a pretty controversial election last year. Where does his absence leave the country politically?
Well, constitutionally, the vice president is supposed to take over and finish off the term, but it's not clear as there's a few factions within the ruling CCM party that may want to swing things a different direction. Magufuli first came to power in 2015, and as you say, last year won a very highly contentious elections, which was riddled with vote rigging. Before he was president, he was nicknamed the bulldozer, and he was loved for driving programs to build roads as a minister for works, and he was known for disliking the waste of money. However, as president, he was accused of cracking down on dissent and curtailing certain freedoms such as press freedom, and he hampered the work of civil society organizations. So with his absence, you will still see what what the ruling CCM party rather will choose to do, whether they will carry on where he left or will be forced to make certain reforms and bring back certain civil liberties.
Thanks very much. Our regional correspondent there, Mikawa Shachwayu, filling us in on some of the ancillary issues linked to the report of the death of Tanzania's President John Magufuli. On another news, Kenya's upheld a ban on female genital mutilation on Wednesday after the High Court dismissed a petition by a doctor who tried to argue that outlawing FGM a decade ago was unconstitutional. However, the three-judge panel found that FGM falls short as a cultural practice because it inflicts harms on women and girls. Campaigners against it say that the decision is a victory for women's rights, as it is rarely consensual. 1 in 5 women and girls between 15 and 49 in the country have undergone FGM. President Kenyatta's pledged to end the practice by 2022. At least 33 people have been killed in northern Mali after around 100 suspected Islamist extremists ambushed a Malian military convoy. Attackers on motorcycles targeted the soldiers on Tuesday near Tasset in the region of Gao. UN peacekeepers and France's Operation Barkhane helped evacuate wounded troops and secure the area afterwards. Jihadist fighters with links to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group operate nearby. However, no one's yet claimed responsibility for the attack. Zulu mourners accompanied the body of their late leader to the palace on Wednesday ahead of his burial. King Goodwill Zwelithini was the longest-serving monarch in Zulu history. He died aged 72 last Friday after weeks of treatment for diabetes. Now, as Congo-Brazzaville gears up for presidential elections on the 21st, our team went to the region of Pool in the south. It's where, in 2016, a brutal war triggered by post-electoral violence saw militiamen known as the Ninjas take up arms against government forces. A ceasefire was signed in December 2017, but the wounds remain raw.
Rigen and his family abandoned their house in November 2016.
Moi, avant, je vivais ici, ça, c'était ma maison. C'était brûlé.
The Pool region where they lived was then the site of a brutal war between government forces and armed militia. Nicknamed the Ninjas, they opposed the re-election of President Denis Sassou Nguesso.
Ils commencent à tirer. Au village là-bas, il y avait seulement un sac des habits des enfants et des pantalons de moi. On a allé à pied là-bas.
Like most of the 138,000 people displaced by the conflict, Rigen returned to his native land a year later, just before a ceasefire was brought in. Pool has since been recovering, and food production has finally returned to pre-war levels following investment by the government and the UN. But for many here, the wounds from the war are still raw. The exact number of civilian casualties is not known because the war was fought behind closed doors with no access given to journalists and humanitarian workers. Some activists say locals were tortured, raped, kidnapped and killed by both sides during the war.
Pour nous, il y a incontestablement matière à crimes contre l'humanité et crimes de guerre dans le Pool. Et c'est le combat que nous menons aujourd'hui, de pousser la mise en place d'une commission indépendante.
In 2018, the Congolese government promised to set up an independent commission to investigate alleged crimes, but that is yet to happen. Authorities say they want to focus on fostering peace in the region.
Nous avons tous besoin de paix. Le Congo a trop souffert et maintenant il faut tourner définitivement la page. Il faut penser au lendemain et le lendemain. exige que le pays soit développé. Et pour le développer, justement, il faut que le pays soit en paix. Voilà.
Despite this focus on reconciliation, for many the trauma of just a few years ago is too recent to be put aside.
Now, Pretoria-born singer Ellie Zolo moved to Hong Kong 6 years ago and has thrown herself into C-pop. Her love songs have earned her growing followings both in China and back home in South Africa. Earlier this year, she released her first single in Mandarin. Have a listen.
she是我的心，带着我的灵魂去散步，女孩送写自己。
So that's called Stories About Love. And earlier I asked Ellie what got her into singing in Mandarin.
I was fortunate enough to move to Hong Kong due to being cast as Nala in the Hong Kong Disneyland. And while I was here, I kind of immersed myself in the culture. I enjoyed learning more about where I was at. And I saw this whole new world that I had never discovered before. And that was C-pop, Mando pop and Canto pop. And I was like, okay, I think this would be an interesting challenge for me. And I love the sound of, you know, R&B and ballads because that was my foundation in music. So, and that's the dominant kind of style in C-pop. So that's how I kind of started my way in.
And outside of your actual performance, do you speak Mandarin?
Well, I'm still learning. I'm still learning both Mandarin and Cantonese.
And how did you get into that? Because you mentioned that you actually started lessons in South Africa before you moved to Hong Kong.
Yes, that's correct. So I was looking for Chinese teachers. I wasn't sure about the difference at the time between Cantonese and Mandarin. And because I knew that I was coming to Hong Kong. And I met this great friend now. Her name is Bobby, and she is based in my hometown, Pretoria, South Africa. And I just kind of told her, you know, I'm moving to Hong Kong. I want to learn a little bit more about Chinese. And that's how it started for me. She just taught me the basics of Mandarin. But then she was like, since you're a singer, I think you would benefit a little bit more if you learn some of the songs. And she introduced me to a great song, Tian Mi, which is a classical Mandarin song. Not a classical in the genre, but in terms of how many people know it. She introduced me to Tian Mi, and as soon as I started learning how to sing it, I just fell in love with Mandarin pop.
And where are most of your fans now? Are they in generally in Asia, or do you also have fans in South Africa?
Well, I have most of my fans, supporters are based in South Africa because I started doing movies earlier on in my career in South Africa. And so a lot of the following stemmed from there. But in recent times, I've noticed that more of my supporters are coming from this side, which is in Asia.
Well, thank you very much, Ellie. Just this week, you won an award for, what was it? The most popular live performance. So you don't just, you know, release singles, you actually perform as well. How's the pandemic affected that side of your career?
Well, thank you for, you know, touching on that. Well, with the award, actually, I am more alive and comfortable on stage, you know, more than the studio. I think every musician kind of has a preference in that regard, but mine has always been the stage. I'm comfortable being live, being interactive, talking to the audience. That is where I'm most at home. So that award really meant a lot to me. With the pandemic, things have been quite hectic, tough. But we are all hopeful in Hong Kong that, you know, things will open up again soon. It seems to be headed in that direction a little bit. But yeah, last year was very grueling, I think, for the whole world. So I'm really hopeful about 2021.
Well, that's Ellie Zolo there speaking to me a little early on. That is, though, all the time we have for Eye on Africa. Remember, you can actually download Ellie's singles from the usual online stores. We're going to have to leave it there for now, though. Join us again if you can.
Jump up.
2011, France 24 followed Big Sam and his men fighting Colonel Gaddafi's forces in the streets of Tripoli.
Once Martyrs Square had fell, we knew that the end of Gaddafi was close.
10 years on, our reporters caught up with Sam, now known as Hussam Najer, as well as supporters of General Haftar, the warlord who's been fighting the UN-recognized government. Gaddafi may now be just a memory, but Libya remains deeply divided.
Thank you so much. Say you don't watch Mercy Broken English. I beg, if you never subscribe, don't forget to click that button subscribe, because when you subscribe, now you will know whenever I upload video. Okay, bye bye.